Man, have I had a lot of discomfort this year. But oftentimes we experience growth through discomfort. So I'm here to discuss what we learned the hard way. Lessons 2025 forced us to face. Happy New Year's and welcome to another episode of the Men of the House podcast. Goodbye 2025 and hello 2026 on this unfiltered Friday. So, talk about a few things. Um, every New Year's is different. Um, Desires as it relates to celebrations, what's a priority, but I can tell you, one thing I remember every New Year's is that I'm here because if I think back to, I don't know if it was 99 or 2000, a guy I worked with, John, asked me to go out New Year's Eve with him. I did not. I actually chose to stay home. And the next day, I'm sitting on the couch. My roommate walks in and is like, "Hey, you got to come to work." And we worked across the street from the restaurant, so we would just walk. And I'm like, "Wow, man, what's up?" He's like, "Well, John's dead. He died last night." So I went in to work his spot. But that left me with the question of if I had gone with him, would I too be dead? Or could I have saved him? So sometimes that's a tough pill to swallow. But yeah, and it wasn't long after this time last year, January 27th, that's when Buck passed away. Um, I don't remember last year's resolutions if I had any. Probably had something to do with the podcast or maybe starting a business. I was looking at starting your peak performance partner, but you know, it it just didn't feel right. Peak performance kind of that whole shtick around self improvement. Yes, I like it. Get it. Maybe some point down the road, but you know, I'm really more into relational type things and people and the meaning of life and the importance of the small things. But let's see some key talking points. Um, I wrote a few down, and then yeah, my outline here has a few things. So let's see what moments stretched us emotionally, spiritually, and personally in 2025. Lessons learned through caregiving, grief, burnout, and letting go. Um, what did 2025 demand you confront about yourself? And then, is discomfort, does that become the doorway to clarity? Well, let's find out. As you can probably hear, things dropping on the other side of the wall. Little drink there. Wet the whistle. Hydrate. Wow. So I would say moments that stretch me emotionally and spiritually and personally. Well, starting off, when Buck went on hospice, and then our trip to the ER where they told him he needed a pacemaker, and he said no. And they're like, you know what that means? That means you're going to die. It could be later, tonight, or it could be days or weeks. But this condition, AFib, without a pacemaker, and I think he was having 8-second pauses, um, will kill you. And, for him to sit there and say with clarity, yes, I know, and that's okay. I'm comfortable with my faith. The people I love have already passed on, and I'm not going home to anything. So that was heartbreaking. I cried like a little baby. Gave him a hug, and he prayed for me and asked that I be all right and be blessed. But that to see someone so strong in their faith and so unafraid, because we are death phobic. That's why we stay stuck in comfortable places. Yeah, we stay stuck with comfort because it's harder to change or harder to maybe take chances. And that's kind of like our body's natural process of your body is going to go to the area of least resistance. That's why it's so damn hard to make a change, to get stuck in a pattern, even if it's a pattern you don't like and doesn't feel good. It still happens because we get on routine. And then what else? Oh, man. After the death of Bach, I went directly into another caregiving role that was requiring me to get up at 4:30 every morning so I could be at someone's house at 6 to get them out of the bed. And I never really had a chance to grieve Buck, and that just kind of, I was approaching burnout then. I needed a little break. And yeah, I had to make the decision to say, you're going to have to find someone else for the moment. And that was hard, but that is a moment of, advocating for yourself. You got to put your own oxygen mask on first. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And at that point, man, my cup was empty. So, and then as far as other things, man, I feel like I've had one of the most challenging years of my life, emotionally and spiritually. I'm pretty certain I had a couple of emotional meltdowns along the way. And, that was difficult to address or figure out because I quit drinking over 2 years ago, so I'm sitting there going, okay, I can't blame it on the alcohol. Why are you so angry? And through asking myself questions and watching some podcasts, I learned that I had been suppressing a traumatic incident of me being 7 years old and being on a bus that ran over the little girl who sat in front of me, Dana Hobbs. I hadn't assigned it a meaning, I hadn't addressed it fully. Having seen the amount of death that I have, um, I just kind of chalked it up into the general category, I guess. But the difference was, I was 7 years old and the adults around didn't have a ton of experience and or information to help process that. And through that, I developed a high distrust for adults and authority figures, which is still, kind of right if you look. Um, which led to me always getting in trouble, questioning authority. Like, I'm not going to do what you say just because you outrank me if it's a dumb fucking idea. Like, YN2 Lavelle Lawrence. That's who he was at the time. But back in the day, when I was in E4, and my first leadership thing was like, take these two guys and take the company van, and you're going to go from our base to the other base. This is like the 90s. No MapQuest, no Googles. Um, it was all like, take a left here, you'll see a stop sign here, this landmark here. And I was going to have to get on a tollway. And in the Navy, you would go and you would sign out toll chits. And they would give you a certain amount, and whatever you didn't use, you were required to return. But my superior, YN2 Lavelle Lawrence, um, he was married to a Japanese woman there in Japan and lived off base, I believe. So I'm sure he traveled, had his own car. And he was like, you're going to come back and give those toll chits to me. And I said, no, I'm not. And, he kept agging it on. And eventually I just told him basically, fuck off. And of course, everybody in the office is like, oh, you're going to let him talk to you like that? You're not going to write him up, yada, yada, yada. They're like, no. He's like, no, I'm just going to beat his ass. It's like, all right, whatever. So, fast forward, he attempted on my going away party. He showed up at the room and I opened the door with open arms and he sucker punched me and I got him into the room and he got dogpiled by everybody who was on my side. So, yeah, it didn't work out for him as well. He was a little bruised up when I went to go get my orders the next morning to leave. Um, but yeah, you you have to advocate for yourself. You have to stand up for yourself. It's all about doing the right thing. That's what I used to always tell my team. Doing the right thing never goes out of style. So, and nobody can argue with it. You know, even the little C-suite people who focus on the bottom line, they can't. So yeah, it's about doing what's right. I mean, just like with Buck, we felt, we did not want him to go to a nursing home, and we felt that was best. And he asked us to, and we said yes. And doing the right thing's not always easy. It's not always comfortable. Um, I think I heard on another podcast this year. It was like when presented with two options, one difficult, one hard, do the hard one because it's usually the right one. So, but yeah, learning how to advocate for myself. What else did I learn? Well, through those experiences of, you know, losing my temper and having a little bit of a meltdown, and the whole bus experience was, figured it was a good time to start therapy. And had a therapy session yesterday. I think it helps a little, maybe. Not 100% certain. I don't know how many sessions I've had, but, it seems like a work in progress, ongoing, something that will never end. So, to all the men out there listening, um, yeah, I recommend it. If you think that that's something you could benefit from, and if you need to know who, um, hit me up and I'll let you know who I use because it's affordable. It's actually cheaper than if I used my insurance. Like, it would cost me more in copays per month than I pay for this service monthly. So it's doable. It's one of the other things about this year that I've learned is I've invested in myself quite a bit through group coaching, personalized business coaching, therapy, and man, that forces you to confront a lot of shit about yourself. Everything you don't like, as if we don't already know. But I don't know if, talking about it out loud to somebody, it it hits a little different and perhaps gives you the motivation to force us to take action instead of procrastinating on what we know we should be doing. And then, it's been, what else? Environment, learning. One of our clients we took care of, he moved, and just by moving, changed so much about him, his desire and will to live, his everything. Um, so take a look at your environment. I need to organize my environment. I need to shrink it down, get some stuff out, and get it organized. Um, that's on the agenda. I want less, like less stuff, if that makes sense. Like less is more kind of a thing. Simple, you know. My wife and I have been on her with, hey, we need to like get rid of shit from storage unit stuff to, if we haven't used it in 6 months, we don't need it. If you haven't worn it in a while, fucking get rid of it. There's people who could probably use it. Maybe you could sell it. whichever you need, whichever you feel is best. You could set it aside and donate it. My wife often donates to this lady who helps with women's shelters. So, yeah, not only are you doing something that's going to benefit you, but is going to help out someone else, even if you give it away. You know, there's disasters and stuff all the time. Fires, people lose stuff, you know, clothes, toiletries, blankets. I mean, I'm looking at a corner full of shit. So, yeah, that's kind of what I'm going for is, you know, 2025 was too much input. Um, and so, you know, for 2026, I want more output. I want more outgoing. I want to get rid of things. I want less things. I want simplicity and clarity and, you know, singularly focused on a few things, you know, and that's a business, my family, which includes my wife, my daughter, and my mom, my dad, and everybody in my circle, their their well-being, and of course my own well-being. You know, I think Chris Williamson said I downloaded something from his website, but you know, he's like keep it small, two things, maybe three things, but you know, by going what would need to happen in 2026 to look back and go, that was a success. You know, what did I do successfully in 2025? Well, I know Buck. Um, that was one thing. I think trying the Your Peak Performance Partner type thing, and realizing that wasn't what it just didn't feel right, didn't feel natural, um, and getting away from the men of the house. Yeah, that was clarity that I needed because it just didn't feel right. Didn't feel aligned. But I think I started recording again. I didn't Uber for a little while in 2025, but once I got back on, you know, I think I made a post that, you know, 98% satisfactory rating, which I'm very proud of. Um, hmm. And just a lot of investment in myself. But what do I need to do? You know, fuck. What did I have to confront about myself, man? That I'm the thermostat of the family. If I'm off, it affects everyone. Hmm. So, by me keeping myself in check, everyone else around me seems to be either in a better mood, um, you know, because I'm the kind of person that I'm open, honest. I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I can't fake. If I'm disappointed, you'll know. You can see it on me. You can see it in my face, even if I tell you I'm fine. You'll know because there is regular me, who's usually talkative and engaging, and then there's shut down me, which is standoffish. Um, Cross me and I'll fuck you up. And And the only other time I might be in a kind of shut down arm length is if I'm just in a place where I'm observing, collecting information. Because depending on where you are, what situation you're in, context matters. Um, you know, if you're talking, you're not listening. And sometimes listening is the best way to get the information you need. Sometimes people will give you the information and you don't even have to ask for it. But in order to do that, you have to listen. And that way, also, you can try and understand people that way by listening. Andrew Bustamante it's great about like, people think whoever's controlling the conversation or the person who's talking the most is controlling the conversation, and that's just not necessarily true. Um, because listening, yeah, has a lot of benefit. That's why we have two ears. What else did I have to? Other than I'm the thermostat. Um, hmm, maybe some form of acceptance of just the way the world is. I'm still trying to um, thrive with my love acceptance relationship with social media. Like the fact that if you're an entrepreneur, you really kind of need to be doing it, and it's free. It's how you get out there. It's how you reach people. I mean, since I've stopped doing clips, like my views way down because that's exposure. But there's a part of me that, it's like since the election and everything that's gone on, all the deportations, if you've listened to other episodes, you know that I know people, personal friends of the family for 30 plus years that have been deported, that I've written appeal letters for, that my mom was even going to go to court and be a character witness. And then the fucking judge canceled the hearing. It's the same kind of government bullshit that's going on. They're all saying one thing, doing another, and then, you know, behind the scenes, writing rules to stack in their favor. Um, there was a good one on Chad Wright's Truck Talk that a buddy of mine sent me about the DOD being able to use, you know, lawful force against perceived threats on our own citizens. Yeah. So that was a whole thing. But, coming to grips with kind of the current situation of the world, it's just not in the best place. People are divided, people are hateful, mostly online, which is why I've kind of stayed off. Um, yeah. But, in my day to day interactions with people, be it through Uber and or, in person and cruises or wherever else I've gone, most people have been pretty delightful. Hmm. So yeah, the news, social media, it's designed, everything is designed to sell, to get you there. That's their intention. No matter how they do it, whether it's with something extreme like clickbait, um, yeah, the news is designed to sell. Everybody, wants to drag you into their thing, but you're the one that has control, whether you engage with it or not. But yeah, I don't know if I feel like I've felt a little better since getting rid of social media or not participating as much. However, I feel like it's necessary that it changes in order for me to thrive in 2026. So I need to accept, make friends, and leverage it, see it as a tool versus mind numbing senselessness that it often is. Hmm. I even had a personal case where a local public official pretty much extorted $50,000 out of our insurance company. There'll be more to come on that down the road, but it's very gross, super gross. And once I prove it, um, I hope he'll suffer the consequences, is all I'm going to say about that. But there's nothing worse than an elected official who fucking lies, cheats, scams, attempts to defraud, whether it's a person, said's person insurance company. Yeah, that the Texas Law Board will be getting a letter from me regarding this person because it's an ethics violation. It's an ethics violation. And you can tell that something's not right because the law firm that sent the thing, you know, had some wrong dates, had wrong plaintiffs in there. So I'm assuming this person was in a car accident in 2021 and brought forth either he never got it fixed, whatever, and brought forth this bullshit, false allegations to a 2025 case. And, you know, he settled with the insurance company for the max payout, which means, he didn't have to sue us for the rest. And of course, he's going to take it. If what's required to get fixed is three times the amount of what he accepted, then it doesn't really need to be fixed. It's just an easy 50K for this guy. And the fact that it's from a local elected official is just gross. And I'm going to figure out a way to make that known because he will have to be reelected. But personally, I think he just got his law license in 24. I think it should be fucking revoked if that's what we're producing. And that's the person. Not all lawyers are bad, but there's some real fucking scumbags. And the ones that hide behind serving the public are the worst kind of fucking scumbags. So that's what the fuck 2025 taught me. And God, the universe, we'll make the necessary corrections. I pray. But yeah, hmm. But also figured out that my time with Buck was one of the most meaningful experiences I've had in my life in terms of feeling like I did something that was worthwhile. And, that has led me to look into pursuing maybe a credential of becoming a death doula and starting a company. Nobody should die alone. And making sure that people like Buck, people with no family, people with fucked up family dynamics and tension in the family, that they're not alone and afraid when it comes time. You know, our older daughters, their grandmother, I think recently, they might have recently landed on ALS, but, we were able to see her over the Christmas holidays. And, the last time I saw her, she was in the kitchen with an apron, talking and jovial. And, now she's can't even talk and is in a wheelchair and being set up with, one of the devices by Toby, kind of like the Stephen Hawking's thing where it tracks your eye movement to a keypad and you can text. And because communication was the hardest thing for her, she couldn't verbalize. And, it's frustrating. I could see the frustration on her. And, giving her a hug. I just, yeah, I mean, it's hard. And then her husband, the girl's grandfather. I mean, I know he's having a tough time because he even let me give him a hug. This is my wife's ex's parents, if you will. But, if you followed the podcast, you know that we all have a good relationship. So, that, that's painful to see that and to know, that she's been the caretaker for the entire family her whole life. They're a Puerto Rican family. She didn't work. Um, she was a house mom and grandmother, and now she's having to be taken care of, and that's hard on the entire family. And it's hard on her too, because she's used to being the one to care for others. But things can change quickly, and you never know. And that's why it's important that we treat one another with kindness, that we try to be open, we try to have open minds, open hearts, um, open to possibility, as opposed to shutting everything out of no, everything's not black and white. Everything's not a yes or no. And sometimes all it takes is being open to the possibility. Be that therapy, um, exercise, coaching, change. Yeah, you got to be open, open to belief. yeah, that's my recommendation. Those are the things that I've learned in 2025. I guess maybe 2025, was about being present. When I think about Buck, my face to face conversations with people, activities you enjoy, as opposed to checking boxes. You got to be present, and I know this from a fact is presence with our families, huge. We were watching Landman and that part come on where it's like men who work themselves to death. They want their kids to have it better than they did. And then the man's always gone, working, 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 and never around. It's like a cycle that has to be broken. I mean, that's why I didn't go back to corporate. So, yes, this is much more difficult to manage, but I'm allowed to be a lot more present. We can take off when we need to. Um, we're not asking for permission from a lot of people. And it's that freedom that my wife and I have, and, also trying to support her, um, helping her clean the Airbnb just to get it done faster, or also giving her a head start and having the humility enough to go, hey, like, we're a team. This is together, even though you do this and I do that. Um, I'm here to contribute. Take things off your plate, make things a little easier. And it gives us time together. Even though our communication has been off lately, but yeah, man, that's a work in progress. And that's one thing I've learned is sometimes just because you can put shit together doesn't mean that other people can. Don't assume that it's obvious to them if you think it should be obvious, because it isn't always. And it kind of goes back to like advocating for yourself, when it comes to getting your needs met. Sometimes you have to voice that. Um, it's been interesting as my wife and I recently had a little vacation together where it was just her and I with no children, first time in 12 years. And um, when we got off, the communication was a little rocky, to say the least. But, I've learned that I have to speak up, that certain things don't come naturally to some people. Some people aren't as observant or aware to the things that you might be observant or aware to or expect. you know, and that's one thing I have to work on in 2026 is, my default mode is I'll shut down and keep you at arm's length if you piss me off. And then I usually let it like fester and then swell like a big pimple and then it pops and it's like never, yeah, comes out gross just like that. A mixture of blood and pus, so to speak, but in the emotional form. It's easier just to address it sooner, speak up sooner, solve it sooner. Bad things don't get worse with time. I mean, don't get better with time. Yeah, they get worse with time. So, bad shit, you want to know about it sooner, address it sooner. And then my therapist told me yesterday, time doesn't heal all wounds. It's the things you do, the steps and efforts you make in the time that helps heal. Because I have an unresolved issue from 3 years ago that keeps coming up, and she's like, "Well, then you're not fully over it if it keeps coming up." But it's like, how? More talking about it. Said person doesn't really want to talk about it anymore, but what do you do? Mm, yeah. Some other 2025 lessons. Love isn't easy. It's not enough. It's a choice, and it's a lot of work, and you have to want to work on it. Both people. Hmm. Yeah, 2025 came with a lot of heartache and hardship. So I'm hoping I can take those lessons, not make the same mistakes, try to improve my communication skills, specifically within my family. I feel like I communicate with strangers better sometimes. Um, but that's a proximity type thing. It's like the people closest to you who've known you the longest. They've seen your limitations and your failures. And so sometimes, even if your advice is the right advice, they may not take it from you, even if you're successful. So, oy, oy. Hmm. Well, just had like a brain fart. I guess 2026 needs to be about communication, which could mean within my family, with others, and maybe even I'll throw social media into that category. So it's like a goal. I'm looking at it as a form of, hey, I'm communicating. something that's important to me, as opposed to I'm making a social media post or I'm showing something off or like that fucking hey, look at me type shit. No. And there's a lot of people I need to get back to. I need to communicate with because I probably the last 3 months I've kind of been shut down since October somewhere, which is, I think, when I had a little meltdown and started therapy. So if you've reached out to me, I will reach back out. Sorry it's taken so long, but I gotta put my own oxygen mask on first. And if you made it this far, I appreciate your support and you listening, spending your time with me. And if you know anybody who could benefit from this message, please share it with them. Like, subscribe, share. It's the free thing you can do that helps put this out to more. Get more people. Maybe I can start paying an editor. Who knows? We'll see. But it won't happen without you guys. And I could use the help. I can't do it all alone. I've been trying, and I've been spread way too thin, like the Dirty Head song. If you haven't heard it, go listen to it. I love the acoustic version. So, we're not going to change any call to action because it's still relevant when you're out there. Go out and be the person that you want to meet. Till next time, and happy 2026. Peace.